Hey, welcome back to the shed. So tonight we are gonna make a like a little leather tray. Um, I in my head it's a good idea. We'll see what happens when we get through it. But just what all you need is here's our materials. We need a couple pieces of paper. So I took two pieces of printer paper and taped them together, and a dinner plate, and then we'll go through all the steps from there. So go grab yourself a dinner plate, some paper, and meet me back at the table in half a second here. All right? All right. So we have a dinner plate and some paper. Excuse me. So the reason we're using the dinner plate is because although you can get like a circle shape by using a compass and um, and like strings and things, I figure a dinner plate is a reasonable size. Everyone has one, and it's round. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put it down on the middle of our paper, face down, and I'm just going to draw a circle around the edge with I'm using a Sharpie, but you can use a pen. Point is that you just want to get all the way around and get ourselves a nice, good, perfect round circle. Okay? And then we're going to cut this circle out with some scissors. So you want to cut this as close to your line as you can. There we go. Okay, so we have our circle. Now what we're going to do is we're going to fold the circle in half. Get a nice crease line here. And then we're going to fold it in half the other way. Okay? So we should have fold lines on our quarters, and then we're going to take it by half here. You know what? Let's do it this way. Fold it this way in half. Okay, so we've got a quarter. Okay, so we got this in quarter. So, and then what we're going to do is we're going to fold it again in half. Okay, So that gives us a fold line that breaks this up into two pieces. You know what? We're going to do that again. So from here, we're going to do another fold. Okay, so if we open this up, we should now have 1, 2, 3, 4. So each quarter of the circle should have 4 pieces, right? Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to measure 1.5 inches down from each of those lines. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to take my 1.5 inch ruler and I'm going to put it right up against the edge of my line here, of my fold line. And then make a mark. Actually, you know what? No, let's do 1 inch. We'll do a 1 inch from the edges. Okay, so 1 inch. 1. Okay, there we go. So we should have a little dot 1 inch from the edge on each of our fold lines. Now what we need to do is we need to draw a straight line connecting each of them. So the simplest way to do it, I've got my 1 inch ruler, and I'm going to line up the edge of my folds with the 1 inch mark, like that, and move down to the next one. So the marks I made should line up basically with this 1 inch here. So I'm basically just going to connect each of these 1 inch marks. So we should now have, instead of a round circle, we've got a series of straight edges that are 1 inch in from the edge of our round circle. So essentially, what we need to do is when we're going to be making the tray, and we're going to be essentially like rolling this 1 inch up in order to make our edge. Now, okay. So this is where our square is going to come in. So on each of the fold lines, where each of our each of these lines is flat across the bottom of the square, I'm going to draw a straight line up and down like this. Okay? So that way, at every corner, we have a 90-degree angle. So instead of making like pie shapes around the edges, we're going to be making rectangles. Okay? So we're going to do that around this way. Okay. So that did the right-hand side. Now we gotta go around and do the left-hand side. So I'm gonna flip this around. I'm gonna start doing it this way. So I go like this. Okay, so you should now have something that looks like this. Round circle of paper. In the center, we've essentially got like a, I don't know, 20 side, whatever kind of sided inner ring. And then we've got a ring of rectangles and little pie shape around the edges. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to be cutting out the little tiny pie shapes like this. Okay. And then we're going to be sewing on our final product, we're going to be sewing this up here like this. So essentially what we're doing is we're just going to cut out each of these little pie shapes around the edges here. So what I think is really cool about this style of making a tray is that you can use any size plate that you want. You can make any size lip that you want. If you want to make your lip 1 inch tall like this, you can do it. If you want to make it 2 inches tall, 3 inches tall, you can absolutely do it. The only difference is just what you decide to measure. Okay. So we got a bunch of little fiddly bits. And we now have a piece of paper that we can now take and put onto our leather as our template. So we're going to flatten this out as best we can. Because what we're going to be doing, once we go and we actually put it together, is each of these is going to be like sewn up in a row. Excuse me, okay. So, now, let's find a piece of leather that's going to work for this. Okay, here we are here. So this is one of those moments where if you have like a good steady weight, then you want to do that, or if you maybe even make this out of some thicker cardboard stock maybe. I have these weights. That'll do for now, for me. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our marking pen, or scratch awl, whatever you have, and we're going to trace the outline of these cutouts, okay? And then what I'm also doing is I'm going to mark the outer edge on a couple of them. Not all of them, but just a couple of them. And you'll see why in a minute. Okay. So that gives us each of our little triangle pie shapes marked down. And this is why I only did a couple, because I'm going to use our dinner plate again. I'm going to line it up with the outline that I did, where like line it up with the couple that I did on the edges, and then do a nice perfect circle all the way around. So now it should look like that. Okay. So the idea here is that we just want to make sure that each of these is basically an inch deep. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're going to cut out our big circle. Okay. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our ruler and we're just going to double check and make sure each of these lines is a straight line that goes 1 inch deep. Okay. I'm just gonna, and I'm going to put a mark here in the middle so that I know that's where I started. So I'll make sure each of these is a good straight line. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing the other way around. Make sure that these are all a good straight line. So what I'm doing is I'm making sure that the straight edge on the bottom of my ruler is lining up, so that way I'm gonna have, like, my corners are all kind of matching up, so that when I do this, it's 1 inch here, and then my flat edge meets up with the next tick mark. So that way we're gonna have a uniform size for each of these. Now, if you had made your pattern out of like a thicker cardboard or cardstock, you would not need to do this step. This is just because I did this with some pretty thin, flimsy paper. And so I want to make just extra double safe just to be sure that I did not like trace it out wrong from our paper. Okay, so now this is where we get the utility knife out and we start doing some cuts. Okay, now there's a couple in here that I didn't quite get the cut exactly perfect, so I gotta go back over them a little bit. Okay, so let's tidy up this little bit. Alright, there we go. So now what we're going to be doing is we're essentially going to be sewing this all up so that it makes a ring all the way around. So the way that we are going to do that Let me think this out for a second. Okay, alright, I have a plan. So, where is my wing divider? Okay, so we're going to set our wing divider to, let's go with just a little under a quarter of an inch. And we're going to mark all the way around the outside edge here. Okay, so we've got our stitching mark all the way around the outside edge. And then we're going to do each of these little V cutouts. Okay, and then we're going to go around and do it the other way and get both the sides of our V cutout here. Okay, so we should now have a stitching line all the way around the edge and then up and down each of our notches. Okay? So now it's time to get punching. So let me show you what I'm going to do for punching the holes. Okay, so I've got my stitching chisels here. So, first things first, we're going to go all the way around. Yeah, so we're going to go, you know what? Okay, this stitching chisel is going to be a little too close together. This might be better for a wallet. I'm going to get a different chisel. Oh, you know what? Screw it. I'll do it. I'll stick with this. I started it. I'm going to stick with it. So we're going to go all the way around. Okay. So you go all the way around the edge, and then for each of the notches, you have to make sure that you have the same number on both sides. So, for example, okay. So, see here, I've got the top started. Now, what I'm going to do is so this one's got 2, 4, 6. So this is a 6-pronged chisel. So I'm going to do one punch from the top on the one side. And then one punch from the top on the other side. And then I've got my 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to so usually what you do is you put the first tine in the last hole. In this case, I'm going to put the first 2 into the last 2. Okay. So that's going to give me an even number down that V. So I'm going to do that all the way around. Okay. And so on the camera here, I hope it shows it, what I'm trying to kind of show to you. So there we are. So you see how I'm going all the way around the top, and I'm doing an even number, so the same number on the left as on the right, all the way down. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video here so that I can go do this on my proper punching table. But you get the idea. Just do whatever you need to do across the top, but the important bit is in the V's, make sure that you have even numbers on both sides. Alright? I'll pause and I'll come back to you in just a minute. And we're back. Okay, so what I did was I punched out along the V, okay, making sure that I got the same number of stitches on both sides, and then all the way around the edge, however many it took to go around our edge. So what we're going to do is we're going to close up our V's with a cross stitch. So I'm just going to take a length of thread here and thread my needle. Okay, we got needle on both ends. So what we're going to do is we're going to start on the bottom of the V, and we're going to go through the bottom holes at the bottom of the V. Okay. Then we're going to go back across. Okay. So we've got like a beginning here. All right, see what I'm doing here? So then we take our right hand, we go into the left, and we take the left side and hop up one and go to the right, so that we are making like a little X. Okay? And then the back, we just go side to side so that it looks like a ladder on the back. Okay? And then we're going to pull it tight so that our two sides are kind of like butting up beside each other. And then we're just going to keep doing that over and over as we go up. Now it's important as we go and as we pull our tension that we just simply hold it so that way our two sides are butting up against each other. We do not want them to overlap. Now, when we get up here towards the top, we are not going to go all the... actually, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. Let's go all the way up to the top. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so what we're going to do is, let's get this. We're going to stop one set of holes below the top. Okay, so that we essentially did like the bottom, and then later on we're going to sew all the way across the top as a separate thing, but we're just doing our cross stitching just on the section that's up until this top here. Okay? So we do like that. Okay? And then on our back side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie a knot. You know, I'll do a double knot. Okay, so we got a double knot here at the back, and then I'm going to trim this off, and then I'm going to use my lighter to melt that down. Pull it tight, snip it off, and then grab our lighter, and we're going to melt the ends of those threads together. Okay, so now on the outside of our little tray bowl here, we've got this nice, neat cross stitch. On the inside, we have a nice, neat little ladder. And so we're going to do that for each of these that goes around the edge. And as I am saying this, I'm realizing that maybe I should have gone a little more than 1 inch. Maybe I should have gone 2 inches, because this is just going to give the edge. You know, it's more like a bowl. So this is going to be more like a bowl. So it's going to be giving us like just a little bit of a little upturn lip. But what we can also do is we can also kind of like fold it along here to try and give it a little more stiffness. Okay. So, but the idea is that we're going to be going all the way around the edges and doing this for every one of our little V's. And then when that's done, we do a saddle stitch all the way across the top rim. Okay? Now you probably don't need the saddle stitch. The saddle stitch is probably an extra thing. But what I like about doing a saddle stitch around the edge is that it's gonna like give it a little bit of a firmness, a little bit of thickening to the edge. So anyway, I am gonna put on a TV show, and I'm gonna get to sewing, and I'll see you later once I'm. Well, you know, it's midnight, so I'll probably see you after I get a few more of these done in the morning. All right, talk to you later. Okay, so it is now a couple of days later, and I have some progress. We've got this thing all sewn together. So let me show you what I did. So on each of these slices that we did, I did a cross stitching, which I showed you a minute ago in the video. And then along the edge, I did just a regular straight saddle stitch all the way around the edge. And we are left now with this, basically like a little bowl tray. Now, in my case, what's happening is because it wants to close up like a clam kind of thing. Which, I mean, it's alright. Like, say, you put your remote in there, you know, a couple things. You know, like, it's not the end of the world to be kind of like that, right? But what if we flip this inside out? So if we flip this inside out, now it's holding its shape better. Now that this little like bowl tray is going to stand up a little better. Now in this case, this leather has a shiny finish on the one side and a rough finish on the other side. Now, I'm going to do this, I'm going to leave this rough one on the outside because that's going to give it like a little bit more grip on any table that you put it onto. So it's going to be a little bit less likely to move around. And now I can put my remotes in here, I can put my keys in here. This is like a perfect size for you to have as like a key tray, you know, on your in your entryway in the house kind of thing. And the beauty of it is that this was made, all we had to do to make this pattern up was a dinner plate, some paper, a marker, and a pair of scissors. Super simple to make. Took a little bit of time to do the sewing. You don't need to do this extra line of sewing around the edge the way I did. I just like it because it gives us a little bit of stiffness to the edge. It helps kind of tie in those corners there. Now, if you wanted this to be a little smaller in the middle, a little taller, instead of doing a 1-inch cut, you could do 1.5 inches, a 2-inch. So the roll, like it's all up to what you want to do. But this is not too bad. Okay, so I'm going to end it there for now. Thanks for watching another video and doing another project with me. And I'll see you later. Safe travels.